This episode of Super Pulp Science is brought to you by FanQuest, happening June 22nd and 23rd at the Red River College Exchange District campus. Come meet Claire C. Marshall, author of Year and Sea, which is the first novel set in the Silent Guardians universe, and Greg and Justin will be there as well. You can get whatever. You can see all our guests and all the things happening at fanquestcon.com. Tickets are available there as well.
Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
Hello, this is Super Pulp Science, where I'm staring intently across the table at producer Dan. Dan and I are hosting the podcast today. Say hello, Dan.
Hello, Dan.
This is a little intimidating. You have your arms folded. You have
my body language is not very inviting right now.
Yeah, not very.
I don't know why I'm doing that. I should have some of my lovely oat milk latte that you brought me.
Brought to you by Parlor,
yep,
who we one day hope to convince to be our sponsor.
That'd be great.
Our caffeination sponsor.
Every week you buy me Parlor coffee.
It's true.
It's delicious. And yeah, we should absolutely have them sponsor the podcast.
That's a great
We're
idea.
giving them free advertising right now.
Huh. Interesting. Dan,
yes,
I have a question for you. Tell it to me straight. Did you like the play or did you not like it?
I liked it a lot.
Dan and I have not spoken at all yet since he went to see Red Earth, which is
Yeah,
now
I
over.
saw it on Thursday night. There was a respectable crowd there. I would say, question I have for you, and we can talk about this because there's spoilers. It'll probably show again at some point, but not.
Yeah, it's over now.
So it's over now. So
spoiler cap lifted.
Okay. So when you walk in, there's kind of three main sections of seating at the Prairie Theatre Exchange, and you guys had covered two of those sections with white.
That's right.
Was that always like that, or did you have that all open for when it was fuller?
No, it was always like that.
Okay.
So we intentionally, because of the way the projection was, we wanted to
have people looking straight on, right?
Well,
yeah.
Straight on, or also, we had kind of, I don't know, I'd say about 30 degrees, like the way that the Prairie Theatre Exchange theater is, and we're going to have Andrea and Gwen and Alicia and a few other people on the podcast to talk about the behind-the-scenes experience, which I even learned stuff about. But it's kind of a 180, where the crowd can normally sit.
Yes.
We restricted that and covered the seating. The production designer, the idea was that when it's lit right, it will look like stone, like the mountains, like the Martian rocks.
Yep.
And when it's lit another way, you'll see that it's obviously crumpled paper cast across. And the idea was that it's like the cast-off paper of the main character's writings. This was sort of the high-minded idea. One of those details that it doesn't matter if anyone notices.
Yeah, I didn't notice that, but that's okay. It looked cool. It did look cool when it was when the lighting was red. It looked like the surface of Mars. Yeah. That's and certainly during the main scene that involves that part of the stands, whatever. I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, the crowd, I would say it was almost a sellout. It was pretty close.
Yeah, we had a lot of real close to sellout.
Yeah. So it was a good amount of people there, and everyone seemed to really enjoy it. I love I have to ask this way you guys have done this projection.
Right.
Has anybody else done that before?
Not like the way we've done it.
Now, I've never seen anything like that before.
We would not claim to be the first people to do projection on the theater stage. As soon as the technology reached the point where it was portable and affordable for theaters to use projection, they started using projection.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good way to have lower cost sets.
And Andrea has used that before. She did directed a play, 20,000 Leagues, an adaptation of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea,
right,
that eventually made it onto Broadway down in New York City, and it used projection simply as set pieces. What we tried to do was create projection that was not just, here's so that we don't need a set or we can do a quick change of a set through projection, but instead environments that the actors would interact with and react to. And we had 4 projectors, 2 rear and 2 forward projectors that cast across scrims that were enfolding the actors, could create 3-dimensional environments. A typical play, what it did is, and so we created all original musical cues, all original visuals for the play, which is also not a done thing with projection. Often when you use projection, you're pulling from archive footage or you're pulling from photography or whatever.
Yeah.
So we sort of made everything ourselves. So a typical play, as I understand it, has anywhere between 150 and maybe 300 cues, right? And a cue being like when the sound or the light or the set change or, all the things that the audience takes for granted. There was maybe there's maybe 300 of those typically. We had 1,200.
Oh my God,
in our play.
I believe it. Yeah, with all those different things and the use of cameras. So just to describe this a little bit better. So for example, the instrument panel, they're on a colony on Mars, which is a bunch of technology, and so they have like the instrument panel with screens, much of the same way you would see in any other science fiction movie or TV show. So there's a view screen, you see somebody on the other side of the view screen. You use cameras in a really cool way. When somebody is like making their log, the actor is facing away from the audience. They're looking at the instrument panel, but the video of it comes up on the other side, so you can see their face straight
which was
on.
Real time. We had
it was real time. It was really, really cool. And I was like, is that real time, or is she just like syncing it up? I tried to figure that out, but it was a live camera.
Yeah, there was no recorded video. At all.
So,
there was a lot of things that a lot of people who saw the show were like, oh, they must have pre-recorded that. How could you possibly do that any other way? But we were actually live.
Yeah, it was really well done. All that stuff was amazing. So I'm really, I can see the possibilities are endless with this kind of thing. Like it's really, I've never seen a science fiction story told on stage before, like in a play form.
I think it's rare.
But it works, and that's maybe the reason is because you can't make it work convincingly with, regular sets. But you guys did it in a way that it works, and it was convincing, and it felt like you were there.
So I think one of the things about theater, which will always remain true, is that you can do anything convincingly without a set. Like the sort of the thrust of theater is that, with
one person
chair,
on stage, black background, single spotlight.
They could be anywhere if they themselves are convincing. What we tried to do, in some instances, I think our ambition overreached our grasp. That's definitely true. But what we tried to do was have the environments not interrupt the actors. Mm-hmm. So rather than, oh, wow, there's some pizzazz happening, isn't that cool? And then you ignore the performance.
Yeah.
We tried to make holes in our sort of fanciful world that we'd created that would allow the actors to shine through with their performance. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think we, like having seen it now, I went to see it 6 times to watch it. It ran for 10 days. And I saw lots of different performances from lots of different angles in the theater, and I realized there are a lot of things what we can do to amplify performance. That's what I really realized. Like we were doing a thing that hadn't been done. Mm-hmm. We tried a whole bunch of stuff that worked really well, but like anything, once you're finished, it's just like making a book. You make the book. Then you find the things that you might have done differently, and you try to apply that to the next book you make, right? So same with this. We have this sort of baseline now for the technology we can use, and I was really, CBC came, and we got some national coverage for it. We got a lot of local coverage for it. It was the front page of the Uptown. We had good reviews from people who traditionally give theater very poor reviews. So I think what we did was really succeed in trying something new and appealing to some non-standard theater audiences with our format and our storytelling. Yeah. But then we tried to also, I use the we sort of loosely here, what Andrea was really after doing, Andrea Sardison, who was the director, incorporating what traditional theater is great at and what this new technology gives us a reach for, and try to sort of smash those two things together. Yeah. So it was a really humbling and singular experience. The first time in a long time where I've had that many people collectively put aside, I guess the only way to say it is to put aside their ego in service of the project. Okay. Right? And we have, when you bring in that many people, you bring in actors, you bring in sound designers, you bring in lighting people, you bring in a director, you bring in a, loudmouth graphic novelist. You have all of these people, and you have 2 playwrights who are very skilled and very good at what they do. Mm-hmm. You have this moment where someone should stand their ground and say, no, it's this way, because I know better. But because we were all sort of stitching this weird hybrid thing together. There was no way for someone to say, there was no room for someone to say, well, clearly this is the way we should do it.
Right.
So instead, everyone was like, well, I'm going to do my part the best I can and bring it to the table, and then Andrea's going to piece it all together into a new thing. It'll be interesting to see now that we all feel like we've figured it out. If we collaborate it all again, can we be as in service to the idea, right?
Because you were, again, everyone was so, and everyone had bought into the idea of doing this for the first time, and that was kind of the exciting part of it. And now that you've done it for the first time, just doing it again, or doing something similar again, or that kind of thing. So, or you can find something new to do for the first time.
Yeah, well, yeah. And when was the last time you did something for the first time?
Right.
There is an inexorable force in the cosmos where time and space converge.
Another thing for me that was really poignant about the whole thing is so by contrast, when I make a book, and it's, even if I'm working on it with another collaborator, you break up with it by yourself, right? It's finished, you're done, you hand your piece off, then it gets its public presentation, and by the time the book is in the public sphere, you have likely, at least in my case, I have usually gone on to begin work on something else.
Right.
So my heart now is, in a way, safe, because it's already reinvested somewhere else.
And so by the time it gets in front of critics and stuff, you're detached enough from it? Would you say
you're
that?
detached enough, or objective enough to be like, you know what, that critic is 100% right. Right? I have enough space to realize, like, totally dropped the ball there, or even if you disagree, it's already happening, right? Like, movement gives shape to form, you're already onto something else. But theater every night is new. Mm-hmm. Every performance is slightly different. The energy of the actors is slightly different. The cues are all live, so that also has a different... It's not like watching the same episode of a show again.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And, it's like that moment, if you've ever been to the circus, where the trapeze artists, sometimes they make it appear like they're falling, so that you as the audience go... Right?
Do people still go to the circus?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the circus. You don't like the circus?
Are you talking about Cirque du Soleil, or are you talking about...
Okay, that's the circus.
Okay.
It just doesn't have...
Think about like a shrine circus when we were kids.
No.
I don't think that doesn't happen anymore.
But what I'm saying is that there are these moments where, because if you know the material really well, as I did, because we were there during rehearsals and writing it and sort of conceiving it, when the actor's energy changes the direction, however slightly, of the whole scene, and everybody there reacts to that and moves along with it, and you get this performance that is as true and as original, but not the one you remember from last time.
Yeah.
Right? That was an emotional experience I wasn't totally prepared for. Like, I love theater, and I've gone to lots of plays, and I taught theater, but there's a difference in seeing someone else's work. And how do you engage with theater usually as an educator, is you show someone a recording of the same play over and over and over again. So it has this quality that we have come to expect from video, whereas a live production is so much more engaging. And then, so you have this whole thing, and then it's over. And everyone, you have all this, we had 30 people work on this show, and everyone is there. It's like the end of high school, where everyone is like, oh yeah, we'll be friends forever. Right? But no, you won't.
No.
Like, you want to be. You have your best intentions, but life is going to pull you in another direction. And the people who work in theater, it was interesting to watch and think about and reflect upon. They go through this every few months. They get
the nature of the work, right?
Super, close-knit with a really, they have to trust completely that it will work. And then they have to break up with it completely. And, wow, that was a wild thing.
Cool. Well, congratulations. It was a great show.
Thank you very much.
Had a lot of fun. Trying to think of any constructive criticism. I don't really have any. It was, you guys probably know the things that may have worked or didn't work.
We have a list.
I'm sure you have a list of things. But it was like, for me, it was, it's interesting how it still kind of had the same problems that any other piece of science fiction has, in that you have to explain the science, which is tough. Yeah, I don't know how you can solve it. It's a problem that's faced science fiction writers since the beginning of the genre. But like, you have to spend some time on what's the word?
It's exposition.
Exposition, which is kind of boring and isn't always fun to listen to.
Yeah.
But you have to explain it because otherwise you won't understand what's happening.
Well, there
right?
is. Okay, so I'm going to bring it into your house now for a second. All right. So there's a difference, I think, between science fiction and space opera.
Oh, okay.
So Star Wars, a lot of people say, "Oh, that's a science fiction."
No, it's not. I agree with you.
Not.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
They spend zero time trying to establish science at all.
No,
in Star
that
Wars
goes here. This goes there. That's
That's the science. And great. That's part of its genre,
so good. Yeah.
Right? Whereas if you use science fiction, the idea is that you're basing it on. There might be fantastical elements, but you're basing it on a scientific principle that is provable.
Right. Or at least plausible.
Right. And so science fiction is, it is a degree, not a category. And so some people, like your Larry Nivens of the world, who are interested in a little bit harder science fiction, but are from an era where, still everyone smoked and was a misogynist. Right.
Yeah.
So you have to take those stories with a grain of salt. Whereas you have, sort of the new school of science fiction is, I think, light on the science, right? And is closer to the space opera in that it's interested in using magic by another name.
Yeah.
Right. To show off things, which is just as entertaining, but
for sure.
has a different mindset.
Right. So what were you guys going for? Were you going for space opera?
So we wanted.
There was some science stuff in there.
So the first act, I think, was science fiction.
Yes, and that's what I mean. Yeah.
And the second act was space opera.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can concur with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of things we did not care to explain by the time we got to the second act, but we felt like, Rick and Christian did such a great job in incorporating the technobabble, borrowing from a Star Trek term here. But we were trying to use real science. We were talking about real genetics, and we were talking about real epigenetics, and we were talking about all this stuff, which, while we can't accomplish yet, is theoretically possible.
Right.
We tried to have that set up in a realistic way, but then be motivated by character, right? Like to have a workplace environment where everyone is competent, not really over-explaining to each other, because why would they be in the job if they had to explain it to each other?
Right.
And instead, Rick and Christian came up with these great reasons for them to argue about the science, right? So if you have one character, so by way of example, dear listener, one thing that they did expertly well was have the one character who is the expert and the one character who has an agenda. And the expert and the agenda, the expertise and the agenda strike against each other. And that forces exposition, where the person who says, hey, listen, we planned it this way. Why are you changing our plan? Now it forces the character to explain in a realistic way why they must change the plan according to the science, right? And that's a way you can fit in exposition into your science fiction writing that doesn't feel like paragraphs out of a textbook.
Right. I got you. Yeah.
And it's what, if we use Star Trek and Star Wars, right, the two parenthetical things that are often brought up, Star Trek is ostensibly also a space opera because most of they don't really, they use terms that are scientifically, what's the word? They have a scientific pedigree, but they usually name a person as the solution to a scientific problem that there is no solution for.
We don't really know what Scotty does to make things work. He just does it.
They just
right?
Yeah.
Scotty, I need more power. I can't do it, Captain. But he does. And we don't know how he does it. He just does. Dilithium crystals, I don't know what he does.
Yeah, and if they, and they talk about all kinds of matrices and all kinds of quantum things, but they're just making it up.
Yeah, I mean, the best technobabble person is Geordie LaForge. LeVar Burton was just so good at it, and he was so good at making it sound convincing in Star Trek The Next Generation. And I think that a lot of that was improvised.
I hope so.
I think it was like
LeVar Burton, I like him. I want apocryphal stories of him being great.
Well, I think I read that somewhere where a lot of that kind of stuff, like they had terms, they kind of understood like the basics of what they were doing, and then they would just throw this stuff together, and it sounded good, so they kept it kind of
just
thing.
Wing it sometimes.
Anyway, yeah.
Whereas like a film like Interstellar,
that really tries to get the science right.
tries to get the science right. If they still they bend it to it bends according to credulity, right? Like there's a certain amount that people don't understand and don't want to believe, and once it gets beyond that point, when you're talking about space-time curves, right? Just show us something interesting, and we'll call it even.
That madman is headed straight for the black hole.
I have a question about the plot. Earth is dying. They've sent, this is the third mission to Mars in 60 years or something like that, over a 60-year time span?
Yeah,
something
give or take,
that.
Yeah.
But they only have, the resources are limited, so they sent 3 people up there to genetically modify humans so that they can breathe on Mars.
Okay, so first of all, the first mission is an enormous mission. They
Right.
sent 3,000
colonizers.
people there. It's like
Yeah.
a major force, and there is, there's this horrible catastrophe. Everyone dies. So then they send a smaller mission with a similar agenda, and that one also doesn't work. So in a sort of a last-ditch effort, rather than send colonizers, they send kind of a genetic arc,
Right.
the capacity to maybe restart.
So did you guys, now to me that seems like a controversial subject, but it doesn't get,
Yeah.
it does not, there's no question in their mind here. I feel like there would have been a debate at some point of is it right to grow and genetically modify human beings, kind of thing. That
Right,
seems like
so-
one of those, you see a whole movie about just that topic.
Yeah, there were a number of things that we knew, and it was very gratifying to myself, and I'm sure to the playwrights and to Andrea, the number of people who came up to us after with these questions.
Right.
Right? Is it, okay, so for the dear listener, some of the things that we did in the story was we simply said that genetic manipulation is possible, that they can genetically edit, and that they have the technology that over a course of a few generations, you could adapt the human genome to another environment. Possible, doesn't matter to us. It was plausible enough for the purpose
They
of our
have the
story.
science in the
Yeah.
era that this is in, which is about 100 years in the future.
And if you knew that your planet was dying, would you be okay with not anyone from your planet surviving, but the species altered into another form on
Yeah.
another place?
Yeah.
That was kind of the idea.
Yeah.
And then we also had this idea that each of these people who have undertaken this mission carry with them much more than they ever believed they were bringing. All their biases, all their fears, all their complicated family histories, all the stuff that actually weigh us down as humankind, they carried all the way to a distant world, and it's what causes the conflict that ultimately destroys them.
Yeah.
Is that, if we can't let go of the burden of our past, how can we make a new future? I mean,
Yeah.
the opening line of the play and the closing line of the play are the same, which is, focuses around the idea that we have to decide on our past and decide on our future. And that was sort of what we were after. And, it was also a little bit meta because Andrea works primarily in devised theater, where everyone comes together. Devised theater is different than traditional theater. In devised theater, everyone has a little bit of a voice, and everyone helps to create something new rather than simply do what you're told. You don't just follow the way theater has always been. If someone has a new idea, a new technology, a new way of doing things, a physical capacity that, a cast normally wouldn't have, you incorporate it into the production.
The person I went to the play with has a question about the reason. Okay, so in the play, all the babies, all the fetuses they're working with are female.
Yes.
Is that because female babies are are tougher than male babies, or more hardy?
Okay, so it's a couple of things. One of the things we wanted to do was we wanted to have an all-female cast.
Right. Except for
Spoiler alert: they find a man on Mars, right?
Spoiler alert. That's right.
But
A little bit like Heinlein there, eh? Stranger in a Strange Land.
yeah, a little bit, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we were boring from Heinlein. We were boring from Ray Bradbury. We were boring from
Anybody who's written about Mars, pretty much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was all in there. But the idea was that we also sat down and we had a practical discussion that, okay, let's say this technology does exist, but let's assume technology wears down and fails and you're not going to be sent any spare parts. Your first generation should all be women because if you have all this in vitro technology, then you can use that first generation as a fail-safe
Right.
if the technology breaks down. So if you want to artificially inseminate them, you can have another generation without the use of any super advanced genetic technology.
Right. Okay.
Right.
That makes sense.
It was just.
But she was, she was of the opinion that for some, I think she said female babies are I don't know, tougher than males. I don't know if that's true or not.
I
guess
don't
so.
know. I would not speak to the science behind that.
Okay.
I don't know. That wasn't part of our. We also were building around the idea. We really wanted. There was a joke in the lab scene where we wanted the fertilizations to all occur, and then the male, when it comes up as an XY, for it to be like a major malfunction, like, oh my God, the lab is broken because we grew up male, right? Which would make for, we thought, a funny turn also. So like some of it was, oh man, everyone assumes that you're trying to say a specific thing. Like, oh, you don't like men, that's why you had only women. No, it just made for a more interesting story.
And it's it is plausible. Like your explanation there makes sense to me. That seems like a valid thing.
We didn't need it to be scientifically real. We needed it to be scientifically plausible that a person could, that under a certain situation you could see them make that choice. And then the other element of the story is, of course, that the Artemis 1, the first colony ship of 3,000 people, actually wasn't destroyed. They went to Mars and started a utopia and didn't invite anyone to come along with them.
That's right, yeah.
And that
they told this is where it gets into the revisionist history,
Yeah.
where they told everybody who grew up there that Earth had destroyed itself when it hadn't, and Earth told. Now here's a question: did Earth know that they did that?
So both groups. So the idea was that both governments are lying to their people, and it would be the story of those people, the Martians that the women meet, and the women realizing that they've been lied to when faced with the irrefutable truth of each other's existence, right? If you're here, someone's been lied to.
Yeah.
What is the lie? And they realize they've both been lied to, and their histories have been, like you say, revised in order to create the outcome that you want. As a parent, I understand this. You don't tell, I mean, you must get this too, right? You don't tell your young child all the mistakes you've made and all the silly things you've done wrong, and all the times that you didn't listen to your parents when they're growing up. You wait, right, a little bit until you think it will be funny and anecdotal, not inspire them to rebel.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of thing. So when our characters are faced with this decision of deciding what the truth is, they don't have anyone to ask, so they have to piece it together themselves and then, figure it out, if you will. But the basic premise there, so one of the characters, our main character played by Gwendolyn Collins, Irving, she's named after her grandfather, she basically contracts a deadly virus that causes her to have horrible hallucinations and violent tendencies, but because she's alone, they kind of turn on herself. So all of the people who are dead from the first act show up as these horrible ghosts, but one of them, we had a turn. So there's this one character, Piper, who is kind of like aggressive, militaristic. We have her switch completely in the second act before the audience realizes that she's not really there. To be kind of super supportive and kind of loving and really embracing this idea of a Martian utopia.
Right, yeah.
And our idea is that it's, of course, Irving's subconscious coming around to the idea, like seeing the truth herself, the way we process sometimes and come to a realization, that conversation that normally happens in our back brain, we had happen between her and another actor on stage.
That was great. By the way, that was a great turn and a great reveal when you find out that she's not really alive.
Yeah, and I saw, there's a moment where Gwen asks the artificial intelligence, Janet, played by Toby. Oh, my God.
He's so good.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
So good. Am I sick? And she drops down to her knees and she starts to cry, right? Realizing she's carrying this child. She's alone on an alien world. All the people she thinks that have survived are actually just her losing her mind. Every time I saw it, I got choked up. And she delivered that moment a little bit differently every time. So I was like, I'm ready. This time it's not going to get me. But it would, the crack in her voice, the twist of her body language, the collapse onto the stage, all of those things were a little different every time.
Gravity's at maximum, Dan.
My God, I think it's got us.
So Andrea and I have been working on this project for 5 years, basically.
Okay.
On and off, not throughout, because we both have lots of stuff going on. But one of the things that we kept doing was reevaluating the themes that we were interested in telling. And so the fact that there's an Artemis 1, that was our first draft. We originally thought we would tell that story.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And then when we abandoned it, we made it part of the history.
Right.
And so when we came around to a second idea, it also we didn't like. We did a workshop. We got actors together. We tested the technology. We wrote a script. We played it out. And the events of the Artemis 2, which are mentioned in the play, was a version of the play that we had also, where the Artemis 2 is there to destroy the colony, the Utopia.
Right.
Right? And they get destroyed by their own virus they brought. It didn't work quite right. It wasn't quite right. And then in the middle of the night, one night, I get a text from Andrea that was like, no, it's all women. Right? It will change the storytelling. Like, what happens if it's all women? What happens to the dynamic? What happens to the theme? What happens to the whole notion of growing a new species if you leave men out? Like, what is that? And it was really exciting to not start again every time, but for us to leave the history of each failed attempt at writing as part of the history of the failed missions also.
And those are still stories you could tell at some point too, right? Those are still like...
Yeah, potentially.
Like,
potentially.
you think this kind of reminds me of... I mean, I'm going to bring it back to Star Wars because, one of the things that Disney did when they bought Star Wars was quote-unquote eliminate the... expanded universe, like they call it the Legends now. It's not canon, right? There's a huge uproar from fans about it because for decades we've had all these novels and comic books and video games and that kind of stuff that told Star Wars stories that now are so-called not real. But the cool thing about it is that those stories still exist and they can still pull from that stuff to when they're creating the canon materials. And I talked to Pablo Hidalgo about that when he was here last year for FanQuest, and he said, yeah, it's like a first draft. He says they for example, one of the most beloved characters from the expanded universe was Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Oh, I love that character.
And they brought him into canon. They made him a character on Rebels, so he is now part of Star Wars canon. We could see him show up in a movie or something. So that kind of stuff is like really cool. There's no stories die; they just kind of get put on a shelf for a while, and then you can bring them out again.
Well, that comes around to the idea that you give people more of what's selling. So So, like, plays have a very different life than, say, a book. Although we also made a book, right? So you also have the book. But the idea is that, a play...
Did I take it out already?
An archival of the play will get sent around to festivals. Festivals will say, yes, come and mount that play here.
Can you please sign my copyrighter?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can do it.
I'll look at it right now.
And so it might have a life of its own. But depending on where and when and how, it's different actors, it's different director. It's, like you send the package of how it's done to someone else to do.
Yeah.
Which is like exactly what you're talking about in a sense that someone could say, no, I don't like the relationship between these characters. And they would have some freedom to say, change, alter, cut that line. You're not supposed to rewrite it.
Well, what's the point in paying for it if you're going to rewrite it?
Right.
The reason you pay for it is so you don't have to write a new play.
But you can, just like with music, you can do a new arrangement.
Right.
Right.
So you could change something about a scene and make it a different, kind of have a different feel or a different message.
Yeah, in theory. Yeah. So it would be interested to see what kind of life it has beyond that. So if it did have a life beyond that, there would be, you're right. There's lots of room to expand it or grow it. There is also a kind of a great thing about a thing being finished also, though.
Sorry, I'm reading the book. What?
Yeah, no, I was saying it. There's a great element when something is over.
Yes.
Also,
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And I've gotten a lot of messages from people saying, I couldn't come. I missed it. When can I see it again? They're in that movie mentality. And I'm like, no, you can't.
You can't. It's done.
Yeah. It was there for 10 days. And you had 10 days where you could come and see it. And the labor and love of all of the people involved was there on display, but now it's over. And like smoke, you know, you can tell it was there,
Yeah.
but you can't see it anymore.
Yeah.
Right? And that is, you know, kind of the magic and the beauty of theater in general.
Would you ever consider creating a graphic novel of this story? Not this, but like an actual depiction of the story we see on stage.
Okay, so for the dear listener who can't see what the this is that Dan pointed to, so we did an epistolary collection of the events of the story as a quote-unquote graphic novel for.
And it's so cool this in the play how she has this book, she's writing in this book. It's like an old technical manual or something she found that she's writing
on top of it, yeah.
And then she leaves that book for her daughter, and then at the end her daughter comes to retrieve it from the site because her daughter is the only person from the Mars colony who can go to the Artemis 2 because she's immune to the disease. Is that right?
That was the idea. Yeah.
She's
created this idea of legacy that her child, born of her, right? She develops antibodies as a result of growing up, gestating, if you will, in that environment. And so when Irving lets her daughter go, Irving can't survive. Irving knows she can't survive. She's slowly going crazy. She puts her baby in the pod car, the bassinet in the river. You know, there's a lot of, we borrowed a lot of, we gender bent a lot of traditional Bible motifs also. And we sent her only begotten daughter to the people, right? And
wasn't the baby going to infect the colony though?
The original plan for this is a spoiler section.
We've been talking spoilers the whole time.
So we've been talking about the lies. So they believe they were there to start a new colony, a genetic ark.
Yes.
Unfortunately, they have not been told the whole truth. All of the babies and all the epigenetic material that they've been sent with contains a hidden bacterial virus hidden inside each cell that, should they make contact with the Martian colony, they will be able to passively overcome them simply by their interaction.
Yes.
Right?
Which is what happened
Which is what happens in human history. Right. So they bioengineer a way to make sure that once they meet the Martians and meet that utopian colony, that colony and all of its resources will quickly become theirs because they'll die just from meeting them. But it all, comes out a little too soon. It doesn't work quite the way, how's the expression go? Man plans and the gods laugh. Right?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't quite work out. And Irving ends up sick. She also ends up impregnated with her own technologies, and so has a daughter. Chooses to give birth to a daughter, and that daughter, who is now immune to these viruses that the human colonies can send, she sends to the Martians. So that she'll survive, number one, but also in the hopes that maybe it will give them the technology latent in her genes to themselves become immune.
Okay, so that's what happened then.
Yeah.
Okay,
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so then it's 20 years later. The last scene of the play is, of course, 20 years later, where the daughter. It was our surprise. New cast member we had shows up on stage and picks up the book, and that is the book that the audience is given also. So when they're like, oh, what's the book that she's got, I wish I knew what was in it, everyone gets
a copy. It was great. Yeah, very well done.
It'll be interesting for me to see reactions to the story itself absent the play, right? So I'll be taking this book on the road, and I'm going to be talking to a few. There's a publisher that might be interested in maybe picking it up just as a book.
Yep.
Not as an adaptation of the play.
My question is, would you ever do an adaptation of the play?
Like a direct adaptation?
Yeah. Or is it just meant to be told that way and that's it?
Yeah, I wonder. No.
Okay.
My first instinct is to say no.
Right.
Because why?
For those who missed it.
Right, exactly, right? Like, go to the thing. It's like, could you please write down your summary of the album you just listened to so that I can also enjoy the album via your summary?
Yeah,
right?
I got you. Yeah.
It's not quite the same. Now, if there was, like, a great call for some adaptation, what's interesting is that because we're talking about revisionist history, like this book also revises the history. It's the story that Irving is willing to tell her daughter.
Right.
It's not the whole story.
Yeah.
Right? So if we were able to play with that trope, that, you know, the version that you would see in the graphic novel would be different than the version you'd see on stage, then, you know, a person could be convinced, maybe.
It's a really good story. Like, I love the story. It's so compelling and such an interesting idea. And I mean, I guess for me, I tend to consume my science fiction as novel or graphic novel or a movie or TV show. So seeing this format is different, and I kind of want a book version.
Right,
you know what I mean?
book
Like,
version.
I kind of, but that's probably just me thinking about other things like that I've done where I've, you know. And by the way, the usually the movie is not as good as the book, right? I didn't think in this case the book would not be as good as the play.
Yeah, right.
It'd be reversed,
Yeah,
right? So I think
so.
that there would be that as well.
Well, and we have this great thing. It's, you know, I want to say thank you for that, but the truth is, Andrea and I came up with these beats and elements that we wanted present in order to explore these themes, and then we gave that to Rick and Christian to say, make this a play, make this a story.
Okay, so they really came up with a story.
So all the really good poignant parts, or the parts you laughed at, or all that, that was theirs. So my wife comes to the opening with me.
Yeah.
And I'm laughing at the jokes, and I'm like, you know, at stuff, and she's looking at me, and she's like, "You're not supposed to. You can't laugh at your own jokes, man. Like, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I didn't write any of that.
Yeah.
All that good stuff that I'm responding to so honestly is their work.
Yeah.
Right. The stuff that's my idea. Yeah, you're right. I actually just sit nervously for it. But when the work that Rick Chafe and Christian Jordan did to do the writing, a story and a play are very different. And you earn the emotions on stage very differently than you do on the page. And, you know, without them, we wouldn't have there'd be no Red Earth without the playwrights. You know? As much as we had what I would consider good ideas for stories, they have to come through the actors, and it's a very different medium to write for an actor than it is to write for a comic book panel.
Are you programmed to speak?
So you're going to Montreal.
Yeah, this Saturday I'm on a plane to Montreal. It's the Young Adult Literary Festival in Montreal, YA Fest, or if you're American, they tend to call it YA Fest.
Well, that's what the website makes it look like. The logo makes it look like, yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, I will be there. Portage and Maine, who published Will I See with David Alexander Robertson, Isque, and Leslie and I, we did that book, and then I worked on This Place, a collection of 150 years of Canadian history through the eyes of the colonized rather than the colonizer. Mm-hmm. So we're promoting those books. And then I also have Good Boys coming out through Portage and Maine. So I'm in an interesting position, Dan, where I have never been before, where there is a publisher who has a number of my pieces of my back catalog and an interest in promoting my upcoming work, getting behind sending me places that are not conventions, like the way that, you know, anyone listening to the podcast knows Justin and I go to these, like, you know, these enormous conventions.
Comic conventions.
Comic-Cons.
Yeah.
This is a festival of writers and creators for writers and creators, not only the people who consume it, but rather than, like, you know, you're at your booth and, you know, the people wash back and forth in a great tide of humanity. This is the Young Adult Festival is organized as panel discussions. So people come to programming all day. They sit in and they see people talk about their creative process, about their reasons for making stuff, about how things are done. You know, not unlike this podcast, there'll be a lot of those conversations scheduled for all of Sunday. Mm-hmm. And it's really exciting to be part of because you get to see how other people do it. So pretty cool. And I get to go to Montreal.
Well, that's going to be fun,
nice,
for sure. And then you're doing FanQuest. You're coming back here, and next month is FanQuest, which is it's cool because we're bringing Claire in from Calgary to kind of launch her book here in Winnipeg. And so it'll be kind of the Winnipeg debut of Gear and C. We'll be happening at FanQuest, and we'll have Claire and you and Justin all in the same building. So I'm sure we'll have panels and discussions about adapting the world of Cassian Tonk or the Silent Guardian. Is it Silent Guardians or Silent Guardian?
Z.
Plural. Okay.
Plural,
I've seen it written both ways.
Yeah.
So Silent Guardians universe, the first kind of offshoot of that's not created by you or Justin.
I have to check.
Okay. Well, I've seen it both ways. That's why I ask. But I don't think it's like Z. Okay. Let's look at the cover of the book.
We needed our Hidalgo to do our fact checking.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. We also have, I should also mention, for those listening to the podcast who may be interested in pitching a story, we actually have Matt Drudry from At Bay Press.
Yeah, and he's been on the podcast.
Yeah,
before.
absolutely. He's been on the podcast. He is going to be holding kind of a pitch session where people can come and talk to him about either a novel or a graphic novel that they'd like to publish.
Yeah, and
so,
they just took Curb Angels to TCAF.
Yes,
so
they did.
Interested to ask them questions about. How
I actually ran into him at KeyCon on the weekend. I was over. I just popped in there to say hi to whoever was there, and I saw a number of FanQuest vendors, and Matt was there as well. So I talked to him for a bit.
I had dinner with Lee Moyer, who's in for Lee and Venetia are both in for KeyCon.
Oh, cool.
So that's where I met him originally, and so we made a. I have been abstaining from KeyCons on political grounds.
Right.
Doesn't mean I don't like the people who show up.
So I mean, it was a great group, and the best thing about that is that their public market was free. Like, you don't have to pay admission to get into the marketplace, which is so I just popped in there for a few minutes and took a walk around. And Matt was very excited. He says they've never done anything like this before, so it's like you can bring your kind of an outline and story ideas, and they will review your portfolio. They want just hard copies they can look at the table, and we're going to find a little quiet area of the building for them to kind of sit down. You can discuss story ideas with At Bay Press, and they're fully willing to publish it. If they can find something they like and they can work with you, they will publish.
I'm going to bring a pitch to Matt.
That's right. There we go. That sounds good. So that we have that happening, and Claire's going to be there, and of course we have our actor guest. I want to promote again because I'm so excited about it. I started rewatching Dirk Gently, just in preparation. So Mpo Kwaho, who's Ken in Dirk Gently, and he's also did a short run on The Expanse, and he's been in a bunch of stuff. He's such a good actor, and he seems like a really nice guy. So I'm looking forward to meeting him, and he's coming in from Toronto as well.
I'm interested now to have. Like the last time we did FanQuest, I went out with all of your guests also for dinner, and we had great talks about like the movie industry.
Yes.
And I'm now interested to compare, because a lot of them do theater and do that kind of stuff. I have some burning questions about their.
I want to come with you guys this time.
Yeah, you should have. Yeah.
That's my goal this year, is to stop worrying so much about the event and have some fun. So that's my goal, is to go out whenever you guys are going out. I'll tag along and hang out, because I really want to.
And Dan, you can set your guilt aside. We were, your event lasted how many hours? Like, of your weekend there, like 40 some hours.
Well, it's
of that. We spent 2 hours at dinner, and the rest of it we were all working hard too. You can take 2 hours.
Well, I know I can. That's right, and so that's what I'm looking forward. I know.
Take 2 hours.
Especially since this is going to happen after the con's closed, right? So Saturday night after the
all the
shut
damage
down,
is done by then.
Yeah, right. We won't, but it'll be nice to kind of go out and relax and get to know some of these people. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're doing a tight 45, as I say, so we can't continue.
Oh my God, I have so much I want to talk about. But you're right. We have to cut it short, dear listeners, because we both have lots to do today.
We'll be back next week.
That's true. And I don't want to jump the shark, but we have been lining up some guests for the next little while. Justin and I have both been very busy doing stuff, but now we have some time to organize some other folks and voices for the podcast. So
sounds good.
Stay tuned for that. This has been Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how genre gets made, and we have lots more to talk about, but we're on a tight 45. Join the fight and make comments.